All right, shout out to Big Tech for messing up our stream again. Oh yeah, chilling in the new studio. It's like Shangri-La in here. Check it out. You basically get a plain background. You don't have a green screen yet. And oh, hey, Google. Well done, Google. Well done. Big Tech. Oh, so impressed with your code. So impressed with your code, Big Tech. Thanks. Super helpful. What with its ability to function and all. So we're looking at a giant plage here in 171 angstroms. It's a very large plage, but it's not particularly magnetically powerful. It is holding a bunch of plasma filaments in place, and it's acting like the Earth facing quiet in effect. We're looking at 48 hours here of solar activity. Let's look at a different view. We're going to look at the magnetic lines here in 304 angstroms. There's a high-res view of that. And it is current this time, and for that, we thank you. Anyway, you see a bunch of magnetic complexity there associated with that active region. The sun is starting to look a little bit like a jack-o'-lantern when you think of it. And we are back to a busted screen. The source of the screw-ups has been found. It is Epic Pen that is killing us. All right. Epic Pen, you are unpinned. So, little issue with the screen write over software there. And again, shout out to Big Tech, because you're not going to break the internet. It's impossible. Now, for our spaced out viewers, please check out our CBD link, which is in the description below this video. It's our spaced out campaign on Hemp Lucid. So if you're buying products from there, please do it via our link, as these products are super helpful. They've even got Hemp Lucid for your pets. Americans spend over $1 billion a year on our pets. I've only got 3 fish and some plants, so I'm not spending so much money on mine. Here's a real-time solar wind, and we see the BZ has just moved into negative territory in the last couple hours. And the phi angle is riding around 260 degrees, despite that plage facing the Earth. There are some coronal holy looking areas on the sun, which we'll look at the end of the video. Solar wind density, 6.81 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed, almost down to 300 kilometers per second. So very low wind speed. Let's look at the magnetosphere movies. We're just going to look at the density and the pressure. There's the density, and we'll let that play through. As I try to tune into my own video and find that to be unsuccessful too, like most other things I attempt to do using Google's software. Here's the pressure, and I hope you all can see it, as these clunkers, known as YouTube app and so forth, barely work. Pardon that noisy disruption. Anyway, we see more pressure on the bow, on the magnetotail side than we do on the bow shock side. And that's what you'd expect with such a low solar wind speed, unless you don't know your donkey from a sinkhole. Here's the magnetic perturbations on the global scale. If you weren't aware, we've got 2 poles, and one of them's over northern Canada, one of them's over Siberia. and the South Pole is creeping into the southern Indian Ocean. That's the status of the current magnetic excursion. Let's move on to other stuff, as there's still quite a bit of stuff to cover. Please don't ban us, Google, for calling you out on your junkware. Spyware, malware, junkware, bloatware, whatever you like to call it. Here's a total electron content forecast. And it looks like we are off of the electron lows, which happened right about there. And we'll look at it on the GOES satellites in a moment. Patreon down for maintenance. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? Visit us on Patreon, and thanks, patrons. You are making a huge difference. Look for more custom content, memes, and other in-depth random rants and so on coming through on Patreon. Anyway, patreon.com/smAsho. We're only looking to raise another $5,455 to get me into a ridiculous bicycle by the first day of summer, the day on which I'm doing an epic ride. Also, follow me on Instagram if you're interested in the more personal stuff. Here's a little view of some cumulus clouds that I noticed yesterday. I do occasionally talk about space weather on Instagram, and I would also recommend that you understand the good, cheap, and fast graph. I'll have to cover that at a later time. Please visit theveloshop.net, our cycling sponsor. It's actually the bike racing team, also headed by Becky Quinn. If you'd like to get your company on the jersey, please email me at smashomash@gmail.com, as we are still looking for sponsors for indeed this season and next. So if you want to start up some kind of a strategic partnership in bike racing, again, email me at smAshomash. What the hell? Is that not visible? Okay, it's not visible. That's odd. A couple glitches in software. Now, if you're not familiar with me, I began bike racing in 1997. By 1999, started riding at the local pro level. And then I branched out into road and track racing, and I retired from mountain bike racing. Thanks those who are trying to fund me on GoFundMe, you've paid for 1.3 tires, which are already bought and on the bike, and it's ready to race. Now, if you're interested in seeing some bike racing, check out thevelodrome.com, a world-class level cycling facility located within riding distance of my home. So, run by Olympic gold medalist Martin Osteen, the Velodrome is a, shall we say, an interesting place, especially on a Friday night. So if you're going to visit the Lehigh Valley area, go watch a bike race. You'll also be able to see racing on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and there's group rides leaving from this area all the time. So if you're doing a cycling staycation, which is not something I do, I take a vacation from cycling, but anyway, check out thevelodrome.com. We're going to look at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard just to cite the fact that there is some X-ray coming out of that plage. So the sun's doing a little blacksmithing there. I guess I'll zoom out so you can see the timestamps. And thanks for tuning in, new subscribers. Anyway, there's the X-ray situation. That's the GOES X-ray imager, I believe. Nothing too exciting going on there. So again, the sun's in a very low state of activity right now. We actually see 10.7 centimeter radial flux is back down to 69. A number that is all too popular. Did you know that you can figure out if any number is a multiple of 3 by adding the numbers together? And if that number is a multiple of 3, it's a multiple of 3. Isn't that an interesting little mathematical thing? Anyway, the magnetometer is looking pretty smooth, although we do see a recent spike. KP is very low. So again, very low solar activity despite that active region facing the Earth, as if the Earth facing quiet effect is in effect. Electron flux a little higher than it was yesterday, which was a little higher than it was on the 5th. So a slight increase in electron flux, so small it's barely worth noting. No charging hazards, and the F2 layer is extremely discharged on the night side, as you would expect. Not as much as it was yesterday. In fact, more normal than it was yesterday. Yesterday it was super ultra fluorescent discharged on the nighttime side. There's your aurora forecasts. Not a lot to speak of with such a low level of solar activity. Now, don't get depressed, folks, because there's still interesting stuff going on, such as the B field. So the B field is what you see in blue here. And if you're not familiar with magnetohydrodynamics, I suggest you get familiar with it, because it's probably the cutting edge science that will be important in terms of its implications on things like human technology. Shout out David Devine. We're not giving away any information. Although information is free, mum is the word. And if you think I'm going to give it out to you by, and through some private channel, dumb is that as an idea. Anyway, I just wanted to illustrate the way this plage is affecting the B field. B field is the interplanetary magnetic field, the magnetic field in which you live. We're going to skip the top view field plot because that plage is in control of what's going on. Let's take a look at stereo A's coronagraph. We don't do it every day, but at least every other day on this channel. This is one of the ways that we forecast things long before anybody else, as well as verify alerts. So, and that is the latest data going all the way into today. I would note that there is a giant plasma plume right here, facing a little bit south and held in place by that plage, I assume. And that is some of the filamentary stuff you see when looking at it from the Earth side, as it is a little bit counterintuitive. Now, stereo A is located right here where my pointer is. Stereo B is located about here. Anyway, there's a location of the planets and so forth. There's where they'll be in 1 week, and the Jupiter conjunction occurs on the 10th. Check out in-the-sky.org if you want to know what's going on above your head and create your own custom star chart. I like to draw in the ecliptic as my sofa faces the south. Jupiter and Saturn are up there, and Venus will rise, and it will be quite gargantuan. Follow us on other social media if you find it easier to share our videos there, as they help to verify that we're shadow banned, because this stuff is shared all over the place, and yet nobody sees it. People have trouble finding it. I mean, read the comments section, and if you've had trouble sharing our videos or finding them or noticing when they go live, please leave a comment, as we are starting to gather evidence, as I'm starting to get a little bit angry at big tech. Also, follow us on Facebook, another spot where you can have the living crap censored out of you and have a lot of your time wasted by software that barely functions. Also, check out Gab. I hear it's good. I don't have time to use it yet, as I'm doing too many things at once and having my time wasted by Google, mainly the world's leading time-wasting software. If you don't want your time wasted, head to minds.com/smAsho and get an account there on Minds, as Minds will not censor you, and they write software that functions instead of software that spies on you. So please like and subscribe on YouTube, even though YouTube is owned by Google, who has done more damage to it and to the internet than indeed any company in the history of mankind. Let's look at earthquakes. Here's a 4.5 off of Alaska. Here's a 4.5 in the Northern Mariana Islands, which makes me hungry for marinara sauce. How about a 4.6 in Mexico? 21 kilometers depth. See several quakes in the Caribbean there, none apparently over a 4 magnitude. So really we see a downtick in earthquakes, a massive downtick. We do see a 3.7 in Nevada. Cherokee, Oklahoma. But so major downtick, folks. If you live in an earthquake-prone zone, please have a plan. Have a bug-out bag. Have something. Have some kind of something. Oh, is that so? Tell me it's not so. Please leave a comment if the stream is still functioning. Meanwhile, I might as well just read the volcanoes, as I have no idea whether this is going to be relevant or viewable in the future or not. Tacona is exploding, producing a 7,000-foot plume, as it's been. Kerinci in Sumatra is back on the list, producing a 15,000-foot plume there. DAG. And let's see if I can get the chat to pop out. I doubt it, but let's try anyway. Yes, I find it nearly impossible to view my own videos, which is part of the reason why I make them. Yeah, you can't break the internet, Google. You can't break the internet. The internet can break you, but you can't break it. It's too strong, and it's got too many smart people running it. So you can shove all your censorship, and congratulations on getting Hillary Clinton elected, comma, Eric Schmidt, period. Dear Google, comma, transcribe that, period. Popocatépetl still dispersing. Popocatépetl stopped erupting. How about that? Volcanic ash dispersed. Fuego not seen in satellite. I don't know why it's on the list, but hey, there it is. Revenador exploding, producing a 17,000-foot plume, and Sabancaya with its steady 27,000-foot plume over days, weeks, and months. Here's the jet stream. We're looking at the 9,000-meter wind, which is flight level 30,000. And I was looking at it yesterday and noting that the Northern Hemisphere barely has a jet stream. Southern Hemisphere has a very strong jet stream. So just let that sink in. Let me let that play so you can see how odd the Northern Hemisphere's jet stream is. It's practically entirely run by convection now instead of normal wind currents. Hello, abnormal wind currents. That's what you're getting. That's what you're getting in the north. And in the south, you're getting an abnormally strong jet stream. So if that doesn't look normal to you, it's because that ain't normal. Anyway, let's look at the pressure maps. As those who know how to predict earthquakes will understand why I'm playing this. And I'm not going to tell you how, as I want this stream to end one of these days. One of these centuries, I'd like this stream to end. And again, I'm trying to make it as dense as I possibly can. I can only be as dense as I am. Anyway, there's the pressure maps. I'm over it. Here's the weather.gov warning maps. I would note the hard freeze warnings in Northern California, South Central Oregon, and more flooding and more severe thunderstorms in Southern Texas. And sorry to report on that, but there you have it. More rain exactly where it, actually in some spots where it is needed and some spots where it's not needed. I'm over that too. Check out lightningmaps.org if you're not familiar with that. And I got to say, if you are on a boat right now, way the hell out here off the coast of Maryland with somebody like Mark Wahlberg or George Clooney, I would get below decks and maybe put on a pair of rubber shoes and a dry suit, because the last thing you want to see is a drowning hunk. Let's look at the water vapor map so you can tell what's going on above your head, as it is probably still dark in a lot of the spots where these videos are being viewed. And we have a giant plume of dry air in control, acting like a barrier. So if you look at that dry air over Texas, that's what's causing that convergence. And let's go back to the Atlantic Ocean there, as that is my favorite. That's my favorite water vapor map porn of the day. There you go. For all you proper weather nerds. Andrew Hall. Shout out Andrew Hall if you're watching. Check out the Hall current lines in that convergence zone. Oh yeah. How about a little capacitance in your atmosphere? Okay. I'm over that too. Here's the "that is an ass and that is a hole in the ground" section, a video not peppered with vulgarity. We're going to skip transients and cosmic rays, and we're going to talk censorship. Big tech is the leading
censorship
on Earth. Now, the government used to be all into
censorship
back in the late 80s, which is kind of where a lot of people became anti-government, because people were pissed off about being censored and about, 2 Live Crew being arrested despite going to pay to go see one of their putrid shows. So while not a fan of the band, I was a fan of them not experiencing any
censorship,
because it's a bunch of defecatory fecal matter censorship. It's not going to work for you, big tech. So you can keep trying to do it, and you're going to keep failing, and your stock price is going to keep declining. Check out this article on Science Alert, a delightful Electric Universe article about a giant radio bridge connecting 2 galaxies that are like 1 million light years apart or something like that, like 4 million light years apart or something. So anyway, these are actually 2 galaxies. So this thing is, it's a pair of clusters that are completely connected by a radio bridge. So this is what happens when you do the right radio astronomy. It's pretty hard to gather this data. It requires about 50 radio telescopes. Links are not in the description. Sorry about that, but I don't have all day to constantly put links in the description. Just kidding. There are links in the description. Now, we got a lot of tinfoil hat wearers that like to watch this channel, and for that, we thank you. Here are the most believed conspiracy theories in America. This infographic brought to you by Tyler Durden on Zero Hedge, because the first rule of telling the truth is you don't talk about telling the truth. Otherwise, somebody stops you from telling the truth. Anyway, here they are. The first one, 47% believe Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone in assassinating JFK. 29% believe there's a deep state working against U.S. President Donald Trump and his supporters. 27% believe that U.S. government is hiding aliens in Area 51. 23% believe 9/11 was an inside job. 22% believe climate change is a hoax. 21% believe the Illuminati secretly control the world. 19% believe the government is using chemicals to control the population via chemtrails. And 11% believe the moon landing was faked. Anyway, links in the description. Now, let's talk about some fecal matter. Here's a great article, which is not even sprinkled with it, but just totally idiotic. Thanks, Cosmos, the science of everything. Warming will cause thousands of deaths in U.S. cities. Modeling shows. Now, I'm not sure which models they mean. Are they talking about Naomi Campbell here or something? Are they talking about Kathy Ireland? Like what models? Which models? I don't know any current ones. I don't really care. Is it Nikki Taylor? But did they go to a Clinique shoot and notice that if we don't achieve the Paris targets, that there'll be large and lethal consequences? Are you talking about in the U.S.? I don't know what they're talking about, and I'm not going to read the article. But here's Michael Mann, one of the dumbest people in the history of climate change, a guy who had me believing that the planet was warming all the way back in the 1980s. So thanks, Michael Mann. Please go find his email address and send him emails about how hot the planet is, especially if you're unable to plant things because you're in flooding. Meteorology lesson. If you have equal conditions, such as temperature, barometric pressure, etc., and all you do is lower the temperature, guess what happens? Precipitation. Have you had any precipitation around your town? Have you noticed any flooding? That's all caused by a colder planet, folks, not a warmer one. So, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, but if if you keep the relative humidity the same, and at a given point in the weather, unless there's no moisture at all in the air, if you cool the air down, you get precipitation. If you're not familiar with precipitation, precipitation is rain, sleet, fog, and snow. You could say hail, but please leave a comment if you were in Paris when Paris experienced a 1-foot hailstorm. When 1 foot of hail fell in Paris. If you remember that one, please leave a comment. If you saw it directly and have photographs, please leave links. If you weren't aware at all, please leave a comment, because that shit is 100% censored. It's a mystery what's really going on. It's super easy to report on it. And unless you actually look up stuff yourself, the lamestream media will feed you a bunch of nonsense. So here's 8.5 hours of the sun and 304 angstroms. Again, that thing is starting to look like a jack-o'-lantern. But that active region it looks like it's actually losing intensity. There is some other information to cover. And I'm going to get to it in one moment and bring out the chat. So here's the colored magnetogram. And I would note that there is some activity going on here. All right, if you're going to leave a comment, please do it now, because I am back. And there is nobody here. Thanks for tuning in, smAsho staff. Please leave a comment, viewers. Please share our videos on your social media, as we are as shadow banned as they get. Now, Eric Schmidt admitted that Google was shadow banning search results as early as 2011 to Business Insider. Please follow my cursor. There's an active region there. And that is a reverse polarity plage. See, the green area is leading. And also right here, there's some activity just rising on the southeast. So those are the things to watch throughout the day, folks. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for attempting to get us unshadow banned. I know it's quite a battle, as it's nearly impossible to see our videos. So anyway, help us fix the internet. Use Brave browser. Use DuckDuckGo. Avoid the companies that are miscreants, as they're trying to break the internet and failing. So we're out of here. Thanks again. Thanks especially donors. Please visit the links in the description, as there's a lot of stuff to do besides stare at the sun all day. So remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink it. If you drink, stare at the sun. And may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.